Thank you, Bodie Starwater. Good morning, everybody. Our guest musician this morning, we are blessed to have Bodie Starwater with us again. So welcome, everyone. We're going to get started. So if you're able, let's stand for our opening song. We should have lyrics up, I hope.
You should have the words up there. Pretty simple. We'll sing it a few times and you'll get it.
There we go.
Spirit, guide my day. Open my heart to live your way. Teach me to hear your voice. Open my mind to the freedom of choice. Spirit, Spirit, guide my day. Open my heart to live your way. Teach me to hear your voice. Open my mind to the freedom of choice. You got it now. Spirit, guide my day. Open my heart to live your way. Teach me to hear your voice. Open my mind to the freedom of choice. One more time. Spirit, guide my day. Open my heart to live your way. Teach me to hear your voice. Open my mind to the freedom of choice. Spirit.
Delightful, Bodie. I believe Bodie came all the way from Mount Shasta, am I right?
Yeah, it was a long drive. So beautiful, I could hardly stand it.
Yeah. And you know, I forgot to bring your bio. Can you just say a couple sentences about you musically? I know we're blessed to have this man, and he does sound healings. We're going to get him back hopefully this summer to do that after service.
August,
too.
yeah.
Yeah. So tell us just a little about you.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I've been a professional musician for many decades, and I've written a few books about music, and I have about 20 CDs out there. I just recorded a vinyl record. How about them? But it's a sound healing record with my buddy Christopher called Starwater and Soul. It's called Sonic Travelers.
Wow.
And I've been traveling the world. I was a music director at the Center for Spiritual Living in Marin with Reverend Carol Huntley.
Nice.
For 16 years. Yeah. And I've worked many, many churches around the globe, and was in the conference in Ukraine. And a long time ago recorded an album in Ukraine when I was there with Reverend Barbara Leger.
Yes.
So that's enough for now.
Wow.
It goes
Bodie.
on.
Well, aren't we blessed to have Bodie with us? Yeah. So I want to say welcome to everybody here. I'm Kimberly Hawkins, Senior Minister. As always, I'd like to welcome you no matter where you may happen to be today on your own spiritual path. We honor all paths to God, so you're welcome here always. We are a spiritually progressive, radically inclusive faith community, and we do teach tools both to transform our personal lives and help make a world that works for all. If there's anybody here for the very first time, we'd like to give you a little love. Anybody a first-timer this morning? Welcome, welcome. If you did not get a welcome packet, put your hand up again if you would. Please, a welcome packet down here, Joy or Sue. Thank you for being here. So glad you found your way to us. Let's see, what else do I have for you? If you haven't already done so, please turn your cell phones off or in airplane mode so we don't have interference for energy-sensitive people or for our energy-sensitive equipment. I have a few people to introduce. Reverend Stephanie Clark will be doing our opening prayer and reading momentarily. And Reverend Kim Bebo did our meditation this morning, and she will be doing, well, she's sitting high watch. She's praying throughout the service for the highest and best of all concerned. We are having our 50-50 raffle today, so if you haven't gotten tickets afterwards, there'll be an opportunity. And I believe Bodie will have CDs available after service, yes?
Yes, CDs and books, yeah.
Yes, yeah. So please stay afterwards for our fellowship and to see if you win the raffle. That money is split half with the center and half with the winner. So I think that's it for now. I'm going to invite us to take a collective deep breath, turning it over to Bodhi once again to prepare us for our opening prayer and reading.
Continuing in this field of consciousness that has been so beautifully established by my brother Bodhi. Just turning aside from the outer world and everything that was happening in our lives before we got here this morning, before we took our seat. Just moving our attention fully and completely into this now moment, this moment that has never been before and shall never come again. We are deliberately, consciously choosing to put our attention upon the holy presence, that which is everywhere present, the divine power that is omnipotent, it is omniscient, is omniactive, and omniamorous. And I know that I am that, and so too is every sacred soul in this sanctuary and everybody who's listening, whether currently, now, or at a later time. We are joined in consciousness. We are here by divine appointment to go deeper in our awareness of who we truly are as divine beings. We are not the physical human. We are unlimited, infinite spiritual beings who have taken on a finite form so that more of the divine might express itself on earth as it is already in heaven. And I speak my word for the service, declaring that Spirit has gone ahead to prepare the way, that everybody who is here receives exactly the message that they need for this day, for their continuing journey of evolution. I'm blessing my dear sister, Reverend Kimberly, and know that her talk this day is uplifting, it's inspiring, and it forms a platform for each one here to take the next quantum leap in their journey of unfolding. Declaring that everybody who is of service this day is anointed and appointed to be the instrument to serve the whole. So love is breaking out all over here this day. Love is talking through Reverend Kimberly. Love has already held the silence through my dear sister Kim, Reverend Kim. Love is playing music as Bodhi. Love is moving through the audiovisual crew to capture not just what happens here this day, but the actual essence It's a transmission of energy that is occurring here, and each of us is the blessed recipient. So I give thanks for the perfection of this service. I give thanks for the beauty that abounds here. I give thanks for the sacred presence of each soul who has said yes to being here this day. And I release my word into law and know that the work is done. And so it is. Amen. Thank you. So my reading today is the poem by Rumi, and I know you all know it, but it fits the talk that Reverend Kimberly is going to be giving this morning. It's called Out Beyond Ideas of Wrongdoing and Right Doing. So out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there. When the soul lies down in that grass, not grass, the world is too full to talk about. Ideas, language, even the phrase, each other, doesn't make any sense. Thank you.
I'll meet you there. Well, I've tried so long to do things my way. It gets me in trouble most every day. Now I feel ready to write a new play. If you feel it too, let me hear you say, I'm ready to let go. I'm ready to let go. I'm ready to let go. Into the arms of spirit. Into the arms of spirit. Well, I've been on this ride for oh so many years. All the rough water on this river of tears. Thinking I can do it myself, push through the fears. Now when I surrender, I see it's all smoke and mirrors. I'm ready to let go. Wanna sing that with me? I'm ready to let go. I'm ready to let go. Into the arms of spirit. Into the arms of spirit. Well, it seems like forever that I've been holding on, hoping for things to get better with each new dawn. Where the years roll by, it took some time for me to know the only way to get there, I have to let go. Are you ready? I'm ready to let go. I'm ready to let go. I'm ready to let go. Into the arms of spirit. 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 Into the arms of spirit.
Whoops, the mic fell. See what a powerful song that was? I let go of my mic. Not intended. Thank you, Bodhi. That was just beautiful. We're so lucky to have you here. Bless. Okay, mic back in place. Wardrobe malfunction, what can I say? I want to start today with a story I bet a lot of you may remember. It's the story of a family that had two twin boys. They were identical in appearance, but their personalities probably could not have been any different. One was an optimist. He always saw the bright side of things. He was always happy, smile on his face, happy-go-lucky. The other was a worrier, a worrywart, looking at what all could go wrong. He was a pessimist. So one year, on the occasion of the boy's birthday, their dad decided to try something. He filled the pessimist son's room with toys and gadgets and games and all kinds of things that little boys would love. And in the other child's room, the optimist, he put loads of horse dung. That night, he walked by his pessimist son's room, and he was sitting there amidst all these gifts with this long, sorrowful face. And the dad said, "Why are you so sad?" And he goes, "Well, now my friends are all going to be jealous of me. I'm going to have to read all these instructions before I know how to use any of this stuff. I'm going to keep needing to get new batteries, and let's face it, these are all going to break someday." Then he walked by the optimist's son, who is busy dancing in the pile of dung. And he says to the boy, and just gleeful look on his face, "Why are you so happy?" And the child says, "Well, with this amount of manure, there's got to be a pony in here somewhere." I love that story. And it's not to say that we should be absolute optimists all the time, and that's kind of what my story's about, but tend toward optimism. Remember faith, remember things work out for the best. Remember that even in the midst of ugliness, dung, if you will, that there's always good at work because God is always present, never absent. All things work together for the good, we're told in the Bible. All things eventually work together for the good. There's always divine order, even in the midst of chaos. We certainly have our dose of chaos going on right now. I think you'd agree. But 2 weeks ago, our theme, by the way, for March is What If? And we've been talking about things like, 2 weeks ago, I talked about the power of our imagination, the power of thinking about what if everything we wanted to come about came about, focusing on the good, just as Paul tells us, all things beautiful, all things bright, all things uplifting we should focus on, which is fine, but and good, and an important message, and certainly our new thought message, what we think about, we bring about, what we pray for, whether subconsciously or consciously what we're focusing on, we tend to bring about. And then last week, Reverend Stephanie Clark did a beautiful talk about the power of our visioning, the tool of visioning, listening, for that vision that comes from God, getting quiet enough to hear what God's highest ideal for whatever situation we're in is. So all that's wonderful and part of what we teach, but I went home after that talk 2 weeks ago and woke up Tuesday morning with a case of anxiety. And it's not like me. I'm a pretty positive person, and I don't usually walk around feeling anxious, but I really had some anxiety going on. And I had to get still and quiet to figure out what the hey. And I realized it was shortly after the war had broken out. Shortly after the first bombing, when that girls' school was hit, and children died, and then the reaction of other countries, Iran toward other countries bombing, and I was feeling heartbroken for the loss of life. I think I wasn't even feeling anger at the time. I was feeling heartbroken and scared for all of us. And I realized that talk it was a fine talk. I still stand by it, but it was incomplete. So I've entitled the message this morning, Both and. Just like the reading Rev Steph read. We have got to make room to hold both. Both the joy and the grief that the human experience brings on. The divine and the profane. the elation when we connect with the goodness of God and the beauty of the plum trees right now, right? But connecting with both the elation of life and the devastation of life. We have got to be able to hold both. And I think back to that little story about the twins, you know, that even that optimistic boy, he was dealing with the manure, you know? He wasn't ignoring it, he was digging through it. He was processing it to get to the good he thought was there. And the same is true metaphorically when we are faced with challenges, war, illness, poverty, whatever it is. We have to feel the feelings. Ernest Holmes and Charles Fillmore in Unity always said, turn away from the condition and pray for what you want. Yes, and don't ignore what is going on. We need to be taking action. We need to be processing what is going on, all of us. And I think all of us are kind of feeling this. Can you relate? You know, I have one of my prayer partners this past week was telling me that they were wanting to, it was such a beautiful time of year. It's spring, you know, is almost upon us. And they wanted to feel joy and vibrancy. And they told me that they weren't feeling it. And I suggested that maybe they look at their feelings about what's going on around them. And they said, wow, I didn't even think of that. And they did, and it helped. It helped. You know, it's almost like, psychologists will tell you this, if we're not willing to feel the down feelings, the hard feelings, it puts a cap on how much we can feel of the joy. We have to be able to hold both and. There's a beautiful poem, and I think I forgot to bring the book up. I'm famous for this, aren't I? Thank you, Stephanie. I've been reading, well, actually, I read this week Richard Rohr's latest book, which is called The Tears of Things, where he talks about this. The subtitle is Prophetic Wisdom for an Age of Outrage. It was written a year ago. There's probably more outrage going on now than there was then, but it's a wonderful, wonderful little book. And he talks about the old prophets in the Old Testament, how they moved, those of them that matured, moved from preaching to the people about sin and damnation and they're going to hell and they better mend their ways, gradually maturing to the point where the prophets became more compassionate and started to feel sad, which really is a more transformative feeling than anger, and eventually came to compassion. So this, I wanted to read to you. Rohr starts the book with a poem that is so apropos to what I wanted to communicate today. It was written by a poet named Rosemary Watola Tromer. It's called For When People Ask. Talk about both and. I want a word that means okay and not okay. More than that, a word that means devastated and stunned with joy. I want the word that says, I feel it all at once. The heart is not like a songbird singing only one note at a time, more like a Tuvan throat singer, able to sing both a drone and simultaneously 2 or 3 harmonics high above. A sound that Tuvans say gives the impression of wind swirling through rocks. The heart understands swirl, how the churning of opposite feelings weaves through us like an insistent breeze, leads us wordlessly deeper into ourselves, blesses us with paradox, so we might walk more openly into this world so rife with devastation, this world so ripe with joy. Isn't it true? It's at the same time going on, and we have to be able to hold both. So this brings me to the also this idea of black and white thinking, like Rumi's poem, outside, beyond that field of right and wrong. Can we get there? Rev Stephanie gave me this example this week. It's a great one. Think of the letter 6. If I write it on a chalk on a sidewalk and I'm standing at the bottom, it's a letter 6, right? Somebody standing directly across from me looking at that letter would see what?
9.
Is one of us right or wrong? No, it's a difference in perspective. And if we can hold that out in the world, it can make such a powerful, powerful difference. So the other art of effectively navigating all that's going on is definitely feeling feelings, moving through them, being willing to do that. And turning away to the divine and knowing that God is in charge, that divine order exists. Absolutely. You know, there is a new foundation curriculum that we're in the midst of right now, Foundations of Science of Mind. And in the glossary, there are all kinds of terms that weren't in the original textbook by Ernest Holmes, never mentioned by Charles Fillmore, who founded Unity Church. And I'm really grateful because I think they're important. I don't think, you know, Holmes always said we need to be open at the top. We don't teach dogma that never changes. We learn from science, from philosophy, from different sciences. And so here are some of the terms he included. Spiritual bypassing. Reverend Laura Stewart did a whole talk on that last time she spoke here. Spiritual bypassing, meaning we go turn away from the condition before really acknowledging what's going on. Oh, la, 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 I can't pay my mortgage this week or this month or my rent, but it's all fine. You know, yes, we can pray for divine abundance and know that we're always supplied, but there's an issue here, right? There's maybe something we should look at, a little dung in the room. So that's spiritual bypassing. Another word that in that glossary is toxic positivity. And you know, our New Thought traditions have been accused of that, and I think they can be practiced in a way that's toxic. You know, it's not helpful if you're praying with somebody or listening to a friend and they're really in the midst of grief or worry or illness, and you say, oh, God's good, don't worry, it's all, you know, it doesn't help. We need to be heard, and we need to hear ourselves. We need to go inside and, like I did that morning, and figure out, why am I feeling anxious? What is it I'm feeling? Another something that's in the glossary is shadow. So shadows are those things within ourselves or in our culture that we don't want to look at. Typically, when we're judging somebody else or reacting violently to someone else, it's because that same quality lives in some degree within us, and we're projecting it. There's a lot of that going on right now, and it's not helpful. And even when someone else is projecting, it's not helpful to do the same thing. So shadow work in our movement is looking at those parts of us that we've disowned and bringing them home and looking at them. And I think probably in the world today, we're being collectively asked to look at our culture's shadows. Yes? This is such important work. The last thing I wanted to mention that's in the glossary of this new class is somatic practices. Anybody know what that means? Yeah, big now, really big now, right? So somatic practices have to do with listening to the body communicate. And we've taught this in our class about mind-body connection. I think most of you probably know that when we experience an illness or a condition that goes wrong in the body, very often, it's estimated maybe 80 or 90%, there's some kind of an emotional or a mental factor that's causing that. So in mind-body connection, we learn to listen to the symptom, to even dialogue with the symptom. You know, what are you here to tell me? Oftentimes, modern medicine will say, take a pill, but if we mask the symptom, we miss the message. Someone likened it to if the check engine light goes on in your car, do you just disconnect it so you don't have to look at it, or do you pull it over and get it checked? Right? Yeah? So, a lot of times we don't want to pay attention. And this somatic therapy, I've been seeing a somatic therapist. I might have shared that with you, but dealing with stuff that's going on in the world and stuff that's going on in my personal life, I realized I could use a kind of a boost. I went through years of therapy, 5 when I was in my 30s, and it was wonderful. But, you know, I tell my own clients who think, well, I've already worked through that. What's the matter? There's layers of the onion. You know, there's always more work to do. So this has been such a blessing for me, especially right now, because our nervous systems get dysregulated when we get stressed. And somatic practices help us get back to center, get back into that parasympathetic mode instead of that fight, flight, or freeze. Let me share another story, and I have Vivian's permission to share this. I know I have the capability of getting angry, but I don't normally express it violently. She was on the phone this week, and I was hearing a conversation on speaker with somebody who was trying to sell her something. And she was trying to get out of it. She had said yes and decided no, and he was not letting her cancel, and he was becoming abusive, in my opinion anyway. And I flashed, you know, they say when we get triggered, we're in fight, flight, or freeze mode. I'm not used to being in the fight mode, but I got on my boxing gloves. I picked up the phone from her, and I yelled at the guy. I did. She'll tell you. You will cancel her now, you know. And I got off the phone and I felt like, you know, like that rage, you know, like I realized I had to go take a walk and calm myself down. But that's what happens when we get triggered, and it's so easy to get triggered right now. So what somatic practice is, I was reading this, I've read this book the therapist recommended, and I can't remember the name of it right now, but if anybody's interested, I will look it up. What it explains, the philosophy behind somatic therapy, and I don't think I've talked about this yet, but if I did, oh well, I'm going to talk about it again. We have this fight, flight, or freeze reaction that is the reptilian brain. You know, we're evolved spiritual beings, and we're also mammals, right? And in the animal world, they have a process of coming out of the fight, flight, or freeze. So let's say an animal plays dead so it doesn't get eaten by its predator. And the predator goes on because he thinks or she thinks that the prey is dead. Once that happens, the animal kind of slowly wakes up and goes on. We, when we go into fight, flight, or freeze, have these rational brains that get in the way of that normal, physical purging of the fight, flight, or freeze and move on. So a lot of times we get stuck. The trauma stays inside. I bet a lot of you can. I mean, think about PTSD and different things. So what somatic practices allow us to do is to tune into that body and let it process. And it's wonderful. It's just a wonderful thing. The other thing, in addition to this holding both emotions and being willing to look at how we feel, is our thinking, a la the beautiful Rumi poem that Reverend Stephanie read. In the Foundations class again, there's a section about what's called Januszian thinking. Anybody heard of that? I had not. So you think of Janus, the Roman god that had two faces. It's the goddess, I think it's a goddess, I'm not sure. Is it? A god. A god, it's a god, male, that had the two faces, so looking back at the past and onward to the future. Thus, January was named after Janus. And Januszian thinking means we can look at apparent paradoxes, apparent things that contradict each other, like the 6 and the 9 I was talking about, and not have to resolve it right away. To hold the not knowing. We are so quick to be, you know, we want to be black and white. That's wrong, that's right, boom, right? And that's part of our reptilian brain, because we need to evaluate in a dangerous situation, is it dangerous or not? Because if it's dangerous, I better flee or fight or freeze. So can we learn? Can we learn to look at both sides, to hold apparent contradictions, and not have to rush right away to figure out what it is? The ability, I've written here, to hold two seemingly contradictory ideas in balance without needing to resolve them. It's the opposite of black and white thinking. So, a couple more things. Joy and grief. Khalil Gibran, I guess you pronounce it, the beautiful Persian poet. You know, in The Prophet, there's a conversation going on, and the woman says to the prophet, "Speak to us of joy and sorrow." And this is an excerpt from what is written. "The deeper that sorrow carves into your being, the more joy you can contain. Is not the cup that holds your wine the very cup that was burned in the potter's oven? And is not the lute that soothes your spirit the very wood that was hollowed with knives? Like that beautiful flute that Bodhi played. When you're joyous, look deep into your heart, and you shall find it is only that which has given you sorrow that has given you joy. When you are sorrowful, look again into your heart, and you shall see that in truth you are weeping for that which has been your delight. Some of you say, joy is greater than sorrow, and others say, nay, sorrow is greater, but I say unto you, they're inseparable. Together they come, and when one sits alone with you at the board, remember that the other is asleep on the bed. So I believe this ability to cry is a gift. It's a healing gift. And in our culture, it kind of gets a bad rap, particularly, and maybe not so much now as before, but particularly for men. So men tend to have an easier time feeling angry than sad. And women tend to have an easier time feeling their sadness than their anger. But boy, I proved that wrong this week, didn't I? Not that I'm proud of it, mind you. I was blessed with a mom in my teenage years, when hormones are going crazy and you have mood swings. I was blessed with a mom who would say to me, Kim, allow yourself to have a good cry. If you feel like it, you'll feel better. And it was true. And later on, when I was in New Thought, and I had a unity minister who was my mentor in Phoenix, Arizona, Reverend Flo Dibley, I was going through a divorce. It was a very difficult time in my life. And she used to say, sit down in the morning when you do your spiritual practice and allow yourself a half hour of pity party. Then get up and go on with your day. So the trick is, don't get stuck there. Don't pitch your tent in the middle of that's when we get depressed and we get immobilized. But we got to do both, right? We have to be able to do both. Even Jesus, the Bible tells us, cried at least 3 times, it tells us in the Bible. The first time was when he went into Jerusalem and he made a comment about them not understanding peace. Well, God forbid we need to cry about that right now too. And he cried. When he saw his friend Lazarus had died, when the family called him, he didn't go right to spiritual bypass. Oh, la-di-da, no big deal, I'll just raise him. Mary was crying, and Jesus cried. He wept. And then Lazarus came out, and he resurrected Lazarus. In the Garden of Gethsemane, Jesus may also have wept. In Luke, it tells us that he sweated drops of blood. He was in such agony over this decision, please, God, if this cup can be removed from my lips, remove it. But in Hebrews, it tells us that in the midst of his agonized prayer, he had loud cries and tears. So if Jesus, this most enlightened being, found it necessary to cry, so shouldn't we give ourselves permission when we need to cry and to allow others to do the same. In my 30s, I taught classes and workshops in a modality which probably you've not heard of. Anybody heard of reevaluation counseling? Whoa! Wow. It was started here in California by a man named Harvey Jackins. And it's a form of peer counseling where you sit and you listen and you learn listening skills, but mostly you encourage people to do what's called discharging, which Harvey taught was a natural way we release painful emotion. So one way is to cry, which is healing for grief, right? One way is to get angry, which is a way we release the fear. Shaking. Anybody ever been in an automobile accident or something really, really scary and you're shaken? That's how we release the fear. Talking, non-repetitive talking. So just being listened to. If I'm upset, we all know if a good friend will really, really just listen. Our non-repetitive talking, what I mean by that is we don't get caught in the story and circle and circle and circle, but if we can just process what has happened, it's a way to release the feelings. And what Harvey taught was that then we can think clearly. And that's kind of what somatic therapy teaches us, that, if we're caught in trauma and we're frozen or we're fighting or we're fight, flight, running, we can't act, right? So when we get out of that sympathetic fight, flight, freeze and move into that parasympathetic, relaxed state, we can think clearly and we're able to take action. Certainly when we're frozen, we can't act. So it seems very, very important. I wanted to read you one more poem before I wrap up with maybe things we can do this week to hold both and. This is from, again, I was unfamiliar with the poet Rosemary Watola Trommer that was quoted in Richard Rohr's book. So I looked up some of her other poems. This one was obviously written very recently. And I think it speaks to being compassionate and heartbroken when it's appropriate, but also remembering the beauty, the spring pink buds and all the beauty that we're always surrounded with, no matter the season. Yes, God's beauty, God's order. This is what she says. On this day, after my country bombed a girls' school across the world, part of me does not wish to meet the day. But just after dawn, I wake to the relentless honking of geese returning from far away to make a home again in our yard. I want to rewrite yesterday so every girl who went to school also came home to her family. So every mother and father woke this morning knowing their child was safe in their bed. I'm so filled with horror. We killed them. I don't know how to rise. But the great noise of the geese returning, that harsh and strangled sound, pulls me into the world to meet whatever the day brings. A goose wanders past my window, regal with her long black throat, proof that life goes on, even when we can't imagine how, even then. So this week, I'm sure most of you know things we can do to hold both, to get in touch with how we're feeling and not ignore it, to remember God's good and imagine the best and pray for the best. But let's just talk about a few of them, and if you want to add any, I'll give you space to do that. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with Julia Cameron's work, The Artist Way. Yeah. Morning pages. Morning pages. I've been doing that again lately. So you sit in the morning and you write 3 pages in your journal, just stream of consciousness. For me, it helps me get in touch with where I'm at, what's affecting me right now, how am I feeling? And oftentimes, just as a side benefit, I end up writing a little to-do list out of it because, oh yeah, I forgot that. It's a beautiful way to center. Certainly meditation. Any kind of centering meditation calms us. For me, walking in nature, that's what I did after my outburst with Vivian's salesman on the phone. I took myself out for a nice, slow walk in nature. Grounding practices, cleansing practices. There are so many beautiful meditations on Insight Timer, for example, to balance our chakras, to cleanse ourselves, meditations. Talking with a good friend, dancing, right? Anything else you'd recommend where we can, breathing, of course, deep breathing, vagal nerve breathing, just taking time in stillness. Anybody want to add one?
Do a radical forgiveness workshop.
Yes, beautiful. Kathy will be doing a radical forgiveness workshop. You'll hear about that. Absolutely. Dancing.
Yeah.
Amen. Yes.
Sit out in the warm sunshine.
And there's a phrase for forest bathing, or I read somewhere that even looking at the sun, they say it's dangerous, but people are now looking at the sunrise in the morning, that raises our vibration. Yeah, dancing. Who is it? Isn't it Grey's Anatomy where Meredith and her friend would dance things out? Yeah.
Breathing.
Yeah, breathing, absolutely. Laughter. Yeah, someone in Egypt had recommended to me, he was a seer, I think I told you a little bit about him, and his recommendation was to read funny things, watch funny movies, to laugh every day, and to dance, to put on music and dance. Okay. Sing. Oh, yeah. Amen. Amen. All right.
Delightful cat and dog videos.
Facebook is good for some things. Delightful cat and dog videos. Yes, be still. Be still, yeah. I think cuddling with animals too. What, Terry? What?
I've been tapping.
Tapping, yes, yes. You know, my therapist taught me this simple practice that I'll share with you. It sounds too simple to really be effective, but she said, run your tongue across the roof of your mouth back and forth a few times. And when I would do that, I guess there's a gland above, I don't know if it's the pituitary, but there's a gland right above the roof of the mouth. And when I would do that, I would start to yawn. Yawning is another way we release, right? And we oxygenate the brain and we relax. So try that. Even if you wake up in the middle of the night and your monkey mind goes off, try that. The other one is rubbing your index finger and your thumb in little circles gently. Is another way to do that. So lots. Art.
Eating or crocheting or whatever.
Yeah, creating beauty too, right? Yeah. In my deepest days, darkest days of healing childhood trauma, I couldn't sleep much and I was up all night painting t-shirts and sweatshirts. It was Christmas time and I painted t-shirts and sweatshirts for all the neighbors, all their mothers, all my kids. But there was something about creating beauty that was really healing. Okay, so in summary now, let's remember to be like Janus, to be able to hold contradictory ideas and not have to rush to judgment. Let's remember that we can simultaneously be feeling despair and hope, and that that's part of our human condition. We're meant to do it, not to camp out in the despair, not to go blithely and too quickly into the hope and skip the feeling, but to hold both in our hearts, in our hands, in our consciousness, and to allow others to do the same. Not to try to fix somebody too quickly. When they're feeling despair, we listen. We give them our full attention. And you know, we believe in our teaching that everyone has the answers inside because Spirit lives here. And we are in touch with that master mind if we're given the space to do so. This is a way I think we can really find peace and exude peace and create peace not only in our personal lives, but in the world. Yes? Yes?
Yes.
Let's go into prayer. So how good it is to remember that there is one power, one presence, one source of all that is. I call it God. You might call it creative intelligence. You might call it the field of all potential, infinite possibility, cosmic consciousness, spirit. It is everywhere present, always. It is all powerful, all knowing. It wants nothing more than the highest and best for each of its creations. It is both all around us, transcendent, everywhere present, and also living right within us, breathing us, guiding, supplying. It is our shepherd, if you will. The Lord is my shepherd. I know it as absolute peace, as unconditional love, as exquisite order, as beauty, freedom, wholeness, and so much more. And because we are made, each of us, from that divine cloth, there's nothing else to be made from, we each are at our essence the love, the peace, the order, the beauty, the freedom, the creativity that the Almighty God is as well. And our thoughts, our prayers are responded to. But as human beings, as spiritual beings, having a human experience, we know that we also need to honor the fact that we have an emotional life. Now, we shouldn't be afraid of our emotions because when we bury them, they're given more power. But when we're processing, sharing, allowing to flow through us, we again can see the beauty that we're constantly surrounded by. Out into the farthest reaches of the galaxy, constantly are scientists discovering new galaxies, new universes, if you will. This infinite presence is uplifting, it is good, it is love, it is everywhere. So I know this week and beyond, we are willing to hold both, to have both and the hard feelings, the good feelings, the despair and the hope, the faith in that one power, that one presence, that one love, that we are all one and connected. I'm so grateful for the opportunity to know these truths, for a community that helps us to practice them and give support to each other. I'm grateful for everyone here this morning, everyone watching online, and I'm grateful to know that this prayer, as all prayers, has already been answered in the mind of the Divine One. It's done. So I just let it be, I release it, knowing God does its thing, and we say together, and so it is. Amen.
Oh, when darkness comes over you and the struggle has blocked your view, and all your people are far away, and your life feels like a masquerade, you've got to follow the call. You've got to follow the call. And every answer is usually hidden inside a question, often forbidden. Seek direction from the wind. Trust your nature and look within. You've got to follow the call. You've got to follow the call. You 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 got to follow the call. So when darkness comes over you and the struggle has blocked your view, seek direction from the wind. Trust your nature and look within. You've got to follow the call. You've got to follow the call. You've got to follow.
Perfect song. Perfect song. Time now for our tithes and offerings. If you do have cash, there are envelopes in the back of the purple chairs. As always, I'd like to thank you. Thank you all for your brilliant support of this community and the work that we do. Our affirmations up on the screen. If you will if you're giving something in the basket, hold it over your heart. If not, feel free to bless the basket. I know a lot of you give online. And let's say together, graciously I give from a place of love, knowing that as I give, so do I richly receive.
God is the source of who I am. God is the dream of what I do. And if it's God I'm a talking to, I give myself to be used by you. God is the source of who I am. God is the dream of what I do. And if it's God I'm a talking to, I give myself to be used by you. God is the source of who I am. God is the dream of what I do. And if it's God I'm a talking to, I give myself to be used by you. God is the source of who I am. God is the dream of what I do. And if it's God I'm a talking to, I give myself to be used. I give myself to be used. I give myself to be used by you. Use me, Lord.
Delightful, Bodie. So a few announcements before we break for food and fellowship. After service is our 50-50 raffle, fundraising, and tickets are $2 each, 3 for $5, 6 for $10. So there's still time to buy tickets if you haven't already done so. The drawing will be at 12, Reverend Stephanie tells me, and you must be present to win or give your ticket. I'm having wardrobe issues again. Give your ticket to someone else, and they will collect the prize for you if you win. Let's see, there will be no choir rehearsal today. Men's group will meet, as always, tomorrow, Monday at 11 a.m. They meet every other week, right? Yeah. Tai Chi and poetry as spiritual practice meet, as usual, on Tuesday morning. Miracle Makers this Wednesday at 10:30. Kathy Green's going to come up to tell us more about her free Radical Forgiveness workshop scheduled for Sunday, March 22nd. So that is next week, right, Kathy? And you can sign up in Bosworth Hall. Here, I can give you, there you go.
So next week will be an introduction to why we need radical forgiveness. It's going to be a description of how we collect some of these beliefs that run our lives underneath the surface, and different strategies for releasing the hold it has on us, and allow us to live from conscious love, peace, and groovy instead of and it's not forgiveness like when your parents say you're sorry, but it's untangling yourself from the situation. It's not excusing what happened, but it's getting yourself out, not carrying it along with you the rest of your being, letting it ruin your life and keep you from seeing the love and the groovy that the world is. So the introduction will be next week after church, school, I'm a teacher, and then a week from there on Saturday we'll have a deep dive into radical forgiveness and really go into how to untangle ourselves from resentments and anger. We could use that today, huh? So thank you. I hope to see you next week.
Amen, Kathy. And what's the charge for the Saturday workshop?
Oh, Saturday, I'm not good at taking money, and so I do the sliding scale. And there's a whole bunch of different prices. There's an early bird price of $60, $75, and $100. I don't count. I have to look at the flyer. So,
okay. There's a flyer, I believe, in the social hall.
And next week I'll give you the specifics.
You can sign up in the social hall, and you can pay online. Always for our classes, just go to Donate Pay and type in what you're paying for. Let's see. Join us after service on March 29th from 12:30 to 2 p.m. for a free presentation with Kelly Marcatulli. Kelly, raise your hand. There you are. She is president of Oregon for Safer Technology and a CSL member, and she'll share helpful tips for using technology in today's world while staying healthy and balanced. Another way to stay, in our best peaceful selves, including ways to recognize habits of overuse. Anybody? And simple practices for safer digital living. Thank you so much, Kelly, for caring about that. Be sure to check out our weekly e-newsletter for all our happenings. If you don't receive it, there are sign-up sheets for many things in Bosworth Hall on the table near the back door. Our e-newsletter comes out once a week on Wednesdays. Our community Google Calendar is updated on our website, cslroguevalley.org, and you can view all our scheduled events there. You can sign up for name tags also in Bosworth Hall. We love you to wear name tags so we get to know each other. And there is one prayer box at the back of the sanctuary for both Unity and Center for Spiritual Living Rogue Valley. I think I forgot to say in my opening that we are a combined community, Center for Spiritual Living Rogue Valley in partnership with Unity of Medford. And our practitioners are available to pray with you always. It is their delight to do so. Let's see, I think that's it. I'm going to invite practitioners and ministers in the room who are available for prayer after service to come on up. These folks have studied at least 4 years and are available to know truth with you, to listen, to do both, to hold both what's wrong, what's bothering you, and to hold spiritual truth and what's possible. So come, ask one of them to pray with you in my office or in the, well, not in the living room. I think there's something else going on, but anyway, find a private spot, have a 5-minute miracle. I think that's it, so I'm going to invite you, if you're able, to stand for our closing song.
I am a prayer for peace. Wherever I go, peace goes with me. We'll sing it again and again. I feel peace inside. In every breath, peace abide. And I know the joy of peace. And I choose fear to release. Every moment, love wakes up. And peace is every step. Let's try it again. I am a prayer for peace. Wherever I go, peace goes with me. I feel peace inside. In every breath, peace abide. I know the joy of peace. And I choose fear to release. Every moment, love wakes up, and peace is every step. Again, and peace is every step. Now we go up. And peace